kind of intuition of whatever you've absorbed from that big black hole of information, and you put out stuff, and sometimes, yeah, that is interesting, right? Life mimics art. That's like the far end of the spectrum for future casting.
Welcome to another episode of Stuck in Design. Each week, we pose questions to three founders, Donn, Jieyu or Tze, who run award-winning design agency, Stuck. They'll share with us tips and lessons on design, creativity, and business. Without further ado, let's get into it.
So actually, how do you, is there a way that you kind of are able to spot trends that are not yet here? So like really like future, like I guess forecasting a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, that's always sold with a bit of hyperbole, right? All these future forecasting things. I think we try our best to look at what is on the edge of, or what is emerging, and then we try and say, okay, there's enough behavioral evidence that says that, okay, if these behaviors stay, then maybe these things will be more commonplace in the future. And I think that's fair. I mean, we can't really go about and claim and say this is future. You can take some good guesses, and I think that's fair. Yeah.
Because I guess I always find it difficult to, like, how do you really like determine, okay, this is what's happening now, and then like be able to analyze it in a manner that you can kind of say with a little bit of confidence that, okay, this might happen in like the near future.
I mean, it's an interesting question. It happens on different levels, right? Like when we put together a research report, we try and structure it in terms of what are the mega trends, or what are the really longer term things which are really, really baseline that take like 20 years to change, right? Like for example, urbanization, it's not going to go away in the next 5 years. And then you look at, okay, what's the next within that, the smaller subset, and then it's like, okay, maybe it's stuff around smart cities, right? And then that's kind of the hype in the last 5 years. Then when you look smaller, like within smart cities, what is it that's interesting? And so maybe it's like smart street furniture, and like that's here to stay for a short while. But if you ladder back up and say like, okay, the main challenge is our urban environment is crap in these ways, or great in these ways, and we are looking at ways to change that. Then when you look at emerging technology and say like, oh, okay, this is something really interesting happening with AI or machine learning, then you can ladder back up and say, okay, how does this fulfill those broader objectives? How does it align with human needs and behaviors? And then that, at least it feels it's a more sound way to look at, okay, this might be what happens. I mean, the other end of the spectrum is like life follows art, and that as an artist, in whatever sense of the word art means, you do come up with stuff which is just, like just a mesh or in kind of intuition of whatever you've absorbed from that big black hole of information, and you put out stuff, and sometimes, yeah, that is interesting, right? Life mimics art. That's like the far end of the spectrum for future casting.
Thanks for joining us today on Stuck in Design. See you next week for more tips on design, creativity, and business.